So, given all that, what can we do? What can we focus on if we want to actually sustain ourselves and not get disintermediated out of the real estate brokerage transaction? Well, there are two major sources of business in real estate, aren't there? There are things called sellers, and there are things called buyers. How many of you work with both sellers and buyers? Yeah, all of us, right? I mean, it's pretty much all of us. One of the fastest growing subgroups in the world of real estate in North America are exclusive buyer brokers. Brokerages who only work with buyers. There are several 100,000 of them out of the 3 million odd with real estate licenses in the US and Canada. Exclusive buyer brokers who focus only on the buyer side, but most of us are hybrids. Most of us like working with sellers or buyers. Now, when I came into the world of real estate in 1982 with Family Trust, the rule at Family Trust was commission is 6%. God help the Family Trust agent who showed up in the office with a listing at less than 6%. You'd be booted back out, go back to the seller, come back with 6%, or don't come back at all. And most companies maintained the same policy at that time. Has that changed? Is it different now? Yeah, what happened? Well, what happened was along came in the mid-'80s RE/MAX and other clones of RE/MAX that offered a different relationship with the salesperson, independent contractor status, 95, 100% commission splits, and the control of things like commission rates devolved from the brokerage to the individual salesperson. So today, you have much larger offices and you have salespeople in the same company charging different commission rates. It's far more competitive now than it was back in '82. I mean, light years more competitive. And in the US and Canada, there's been a lot of commission discounting over the past 25 years as the control of commissions devolved to individual salespeople, and individual salespeople tend to be short-sighted and think of from deal to deal instead of year to year, and something is better than nothing. And a tremendous amount of commission discounting has occurred right down to zero or less than zero on the listing side in every trading area all over North America. We've been less inclined to discount commission on the buyer side because buyers, when you scrape away all the nonsense, are more labor intensive than sellers. So today in every trading area in North America, probably 60 to 65% of our commission flows to us through our work with buyers because buyers are more labor intensive and we've been less inclined to discount commissions on the buyer side, although some of that occurs as well. But listings and sellers will continue to be important to us, and in order to not be disintermediated on the listing side, you and I have to ensure that we offer not only real value, but perceived and real value to seller consumers of our services. Because right now, and it's nothing new, the competition settlement didn't change anything. Right now, you and I, when we go for a listing, are often competing against brokerages and individual salespeople who offer their services at a lower rate than we're prepared to sell our services, correct? It's far more competitive on that side. What seller in their right mind would list with me at the rate I want if they can get exactly the same level of service from the brokerage down the street for a fraction of the cost I charge, right? So we have to be better at the listing table, and we have to demonstrate real and perceived value at the listing table at whatever fee we want to charge for our listing services. Otherwise, we personally will be disintermediated from that seller relationship, and some other realtor will be selected as the intermediary. Make sense? So, let me ask you this question. How many of you currently have a written marketing plan for sellers, a written marketing plan, comprehensive, detailed marketing plan that you provide to prospective sellers as part of your listing presentation when you're competing for that listing? That's good. Those of you who don't, I encourage you to get one and remodel it, remedy it, jazz it up. If you're using social media, if you're putting your listings on various social media websites and marketing websites, Craigslist, et cetera, make sure that that's part of your plan at the listing table. A good friend of mine, Richard Silver, who's our president-elect at the Toronto Real Estate Board, embraced social media right out of the chute. And he uses the social media and the web to market his listings tremendously well. Now, Bosley Real Estate, the company that Richard is with, one of my personal favorite companies, Bosley, among others, is in the process of developing a system internally whereby all of the listings brought to Bosley Real Estate by their salespeople will, through staff members, be uploaded onto these social media marketing websites so that individual salespeople like Richard don't have to do the laborious, boring process themselves. This is part of our new world, part of what will be part of the new realtor world, and certainly your company, whatever company you're with, will want to get on that bandwagon as well. Because it works sometimes, and it is perceived to work by the consuming public. So if you can say as part of your listing presentation, if you list with me for the fee that I charge, not only will I do the virtual tour and the floor plan and the photo gallery and perhaps the property inspection report and all the other professional feature sheet, all the other things that I do as a consummate listing professional, I'll ensure that your listing, if you list with me, is up on every conceivable website so that we have wide exposure. And marketing is all about exposure. So you'll want to ensure that that's part of the deal. Now, on the buyer side, because buyers listings will always be important for the obvious reasons. But on the buyer side, given that buyers generate more of our commission dollars than sellers do in our real world today, we need to grab hold of that buyer relationship up front and in a much more strengthened manner than we are used to doing over the past decades. Let me ask you this question. How many of you early on in your relationship with each and every buyer, consumer of your services who wants client status, and of course any buyer in their right mind would, when we make our agency disclosure, want client status, how many of you today insist on the buyer signing a buyer representation agreement with you at the outset of your relationship with the buyer? And how many don't? How many are too tired to raise their arms here this morning? Now, here's the deal. We need to take control of the buyer relationship just as we learned to take control of the seller relationship 60, 70 years ago. How many of you will aggressively market a property for a seller without a written listing contract? No. Why do you, most of you, and you're not alone, why do most of you today devote your time and trouble and professional knowledge and gas money to servicing buyers without any security in the form of a written representation agreement? Why is that? The answer to that question is because that's your habitual behavior with buyers. Wouldn't dream of working with a seller without a listing contract, but you spec your time and your professional abilities with these important to your bottom line labor-intensive creatures called buyers without any security, without any reciprocity. You'll work with a buyer for 2, 3, 4 months, call them up one Tuesday morning, oh, I got a couple more properties to show you. Oh, Bill, thanks for all your hard work. We bought through an open house on the weekend, or saw a private seller, or we know really it's better for us to work with a listing agent anyway because they'll give a discount on the commission and blah, 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 all this nonsense that we hear over the years. And all that time and effort is flushed down the drain, and we're sitting there slumped over the phone. Oh, well, congratulations. We hang up and we think, maybe it's time to get a real job. This is horrible, pain and suffering. Who needs that? Who needs that? There are about 3 million of us with real estate licenses in the US and Canada. Probably 600,000, 20%, and it's from San Diego to St. John's and everywhere in between. Probably only about 20%, give or take, in any market, get the buyer representation agreement up front before they'll do much on the way of professional service to buyers. The other 80% don't. And those of you who are among the 80%, which make up most of you here this morning, you have to ask yourselves why you continue to spec your time with buyers in this illogical manner. And really, the answer when you scrape away all the nonsense is because it's your habit to do so. And we human beings are not creatures driven by reason, unfortunately. We're driven by passion, prejudice, and habit primarily. And then we justify it after the fact, our emotionally based or habitual based decision in terms of our behavior. And one of the, quote, rational explanations for not getting the buyer representation agreement signed up front is, buyers won't sign them. Or in my trading area or my little piece of the GTA, buyers won't sign them. And that's the same nonsense that we feed ourselves when we don't change behavior in other positive directions. Why we don't exercise. Oh, well, I really don't have time. Well, CEOs of major corporations can exercise, but we can't, because we have to watch every damn sitcom on TV every night and kind of sit there poking the beer and the chips in the front of our face and wonder why we're unhealthy, right? No, look, does it make sense in the best of all possible worlds? Would you, with a qualified buyer who's ready, able, and willing to buy, would you want to have a buyer representation agreement signed with them, an exclusive relationship? Yes, of course. Do you get them? No. What lie do you tell yourself for not getting them? Oh, buyers won't sign them, or blah, blah, blah. And then the next question is, well, do you actually ask buyers up front? Do you sit them down and ask? No. Oh. Well then, so you're saying that you want it. You don't get it. The reason you don't get it is because buyers won't sign them, but you don't even ask for them. How do you know buyers won't sign them? Hundreds of thousands of your colleagues are out there asking and getting them. So can you. Change behavior. David Pierce, who's on our board of directors, who's a great business person, has a Remax Rouge franchise in the East End out into Pickering. Here's what David finds. Of his salespeople who do get buyer representation agreements signed versus those who don't, the ones who get them make on average 3 times more income than the ones who don't. They wallow in mediocrity, punishing themselves through inertia. While the ones who get on this simple bandwagon, simply restructure their approach to buyers, make a fortune, and don't have those painful calls where they find that their buyer, which wasn't their buyer at all, bought through someone else. There are courses available, the Accredited Buyer Representation course, which is an excellent 2-day course through the National Association of Realtors being offered here. Sign up for it. Sign up for it. Learn the simple techniques that you need to learn to solicit and get signed the buyer representation agreement. Take control of the relationship. Sit down and have a comprehensive buyer's needs interview at the outset of your relationship, at the end of which you say, it is my professional policy in working with sellers and buyers to have a written contract with consumers of my services. Here's the contract we use here in the province of Ontario. Let's go over it and I'll ask you to sign it. It doesn't have to be for 3 months. Let's have a trial marriage here. Let's sign up for 10 days or 2 weeks, see if we're getting along. If we are, we'll continue the relationship by extending the contract. If we aren't, then you go with God. And you need a comprehensive written buyer representation presentation, just as you have one for sellers, you need one for buyers. And included in that should be the list of goodies you provide buyers who sign buyer representation agreements with you. The realtor of the future will be embracing the buyer and rationalizing the relationship. And you need to.